I'm sorry, I just don't like emotionally unavailable love interests, no matter what gender they are. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video. It is February. It is the start of February. How did January treat everyone? For me, it felt like it went on for years and years, and everything is terrible. I don't know if it's the seasonal depression or just the current state of the world we live in, but I am really in the mood to have some escapism in my life, to escape to make believe worlds where there might still be tyrannical governments and horrific wars and innocent people being murdered, but at least there's magic, right? It is time for Fantasy February. This is my third year of doing this challenge where I spend an entire month reading just fantasy books. I originally, the first time I did this challenge, I did not consider myself a fantasy reader. I barely picked up fantasy books at all. And it was just kind of a way for me to kind of broaden my tastes and, set myself a challenge to read kind of outside my comfort zone. And since I've started the challenge, I am reading more fantasy. I wouldn't necessarily gravitate immediately towards a fantasy book, but I do kind of include it in my general reading habits. But I do still quite enjoy having just one set month to really focus on the genre, and kind of be in the right headspace for it. Um, so yeah, that is what we are going to do in this video. I've got a little pile of books down here, that is my TBR for this month. It's not a massive pile. There are one, two, three, four, five, 6 books in this pile, which is not particularly ambitious. Normally I'm reading upwards of 10 books a month, so there's quite a bit of wiggle room, but some of these books are absolutely massive. So I've decided not to be particularly ambitious, and yeah, because some of these books I know are going to take a while to read. There's a little bit of a range of things. There are 3 books that I'm prioritizing because they are part of my list of 26 books that I need to read in 2026. So I've got those. There are a couple that are series continuations, um, from kind of series that I have read in past Fantasy Februaries, which is fun. And then some books that are beginning series as well. Um, so yeah, I kind of feel I feel ready to commit to a couple more series. I guess we'll see. I think like that you've got a duology here, you've got a trilogy. We have the first book in a series of 4 standalones. So it's not like a massive commitment, really. If you're just thinking 2, 3, 4 books. So yeah, I feel like I'm ready for that kind of commitment. And I have decided to start with the longest book on this TBR, because I might as well just dive right into it, I guess. Um, while I'm fully motivated. And yeah, so we're going to be starting with A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is the prequel to The Pride of the Orange Tree, which I read this time last year, and I really, really liked it. And I'm looking forward to diving back into the world. I have no idea what to make of this book. I know that it's set really, really far in the past, compared to Priory. I know that there are characters mentioned in Priory from Foundation myths and stuff that are quite major in this one, but I don't really remember enough of those Foundation myths from Priory to be able to tell you anything more. So yeah, it is a thick book. I think it's 800 pages or something. Is it longer than Priory? I feel like it is, but I mean, Priory took me a week to read, maybe. It was just so immersive that it really pulled me in, and yeah, I sped through it, considering how big it is. So I'm hoping the same thing is going to happen with this one, and I will be fully pulled into the story, and I won't want to put it down. And yeah, so I had better get started with this absolute behemoth of a book. You could take someone's eye out with this. It's quite a weapon here. Um Yeah, I'm gonna get started, and I will see you at some point in the future to let you know what my thoughts are. Hello, I'm back. It has been 10 days? Like 10 days. Yeah, it's been a long time. We are more than a third of the way through the month. And I have only managed to finish one book. Well, only. I mean, I've finished a book, and it was a pretty big one. So like, I don't know. I feel like I have summited Everest in finishing this book. This might be the longest book I have ever read. It may well be. I don't know. I need to like double check that, but it might be. This is A Day of Fallen Night by Snat Shannon. It is the prequel to The Priory of the Orange Tree. It is part of the Roots of Chaos cycle. Um, this book takes place, I want to say, like 500 years or something before Priory, and 500 years after like the kind of foundation of the world that we see in Priory. So it's like at the midway point basically, and basically we see in Priory that like all of the dragons have awoken, and there's a real chance that this like big evil dragon called the Nameless One is going to come back. We kind of see the start of this in this book. You get the awakening of like some of the evil dragons, like the lesser evil dragons. They're still like pretty powerful and they can like kill people. Um, but they're like not as scary as the big evil nameless one. And like 500 years after all of them kind of being imprisoned under this mountain, you finally get the first of them starting to emerge and cause havoc around the world. And we follow four kind of main characters, narrators, um, who are kind of scattered all around the world, basically. And they got kind of slightly interconnecting storylines as well. But like the world is massive. It's huge. Like the amount of world building that has gone into this kind of creation, this series is insane. But yeah, these four narrators come from like all walks of life, and there are kind of secret family connections and lots of kind of plot twists and things, lots of things that kind of get revealed throughout. And all the while, they're all kind of trying to figure out how to keep these dragons at bay, because it really looks like they might, destroy all of humanity. This is an interesting one because, like, you kind of know what's going to happen already because a lot of it is discussed in Priory. Not that I can really remember much that happens in Priory, but like I have kind of vague recollections of like mentions of some of these characters. So like you do kind of know what's going to happen, like overall, but you don't know like the details. And the details are really what makes this book. I think in comparison to Priory, and this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I think I enjoyed this one a little bit more. I think the pacing was more consistent. Like it was slow throughout, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I know I complain about books being slow all the time, but like slow books can be boring. This was not boring. I think there was enough going on that like even though it was slow paced, you were still very much engaged throughout because there were just so many different storylines, so many different characters to follow, so many different secrets to uncover. Like the world is just so much fun to be in, even though like the world is dangerous and people are dying, but like it's so much fun to read about the world. I also kind of feel like I grew more attached to the characters in this book compared to Priory. um I don't really know why. I felt very, very maternal towards all of them. Like the whole way through kind of the second half of the book I was like, please don't die, please don't die, please don't die, please don't die, to like 10 different characters. It was insane. There are a lot of relationships that develop over the course of the book. There's a lot of pining. There's a bit of an enemies to lovers storyline as well inside there. It's yeah, there are so many different kinds of relationships. A lot of them are queer, which is great. We love to see it. You get established relationships that have been going on for like decades and they're like fully old married couple vibes. You get young love that's just kind of starting out. You do get like the passion of like the enemies to lovers there as well. Yeah, it's so nice to see a kind of diverse range of relationships. I think there is definitely something in there for everyone if you are into the kind of the romance. The romance isn't like the biggest part of it. I would say it's definitely not a romantasy. Don't read it thinking it's a romantasy because it's not. It's very much an epic fantasy that has romance subplots mixed in there. I also just love the kind of casual diversity in this book. Like, there is still like a little bit of kind of queer phobia going on. A lot of it is to do with like reproduction and producing heirs to like a kingdom, stuff like that. It's not necessarily like, ew, gay. It's more like, okay, gay people can't like produce an heir, so you're going to like have a lavender marriage. But there are so many queer characters in this book. You get kind of offhand mentions of like trans and gender queer characters, who are just like, they're not major characters, but they're just there, and it's like you don't need to have them, but the fact that they're there is very kind of affirming. One of the major characters, one of the main characters, is Arrow Ace, which is also amazing to see. Like, it's not something you come across very often in books. So yeah, to have that representation is amazing. And yeah, it's lovely to have such a casually diverse, queer normative, female led epic fantasy in the world. This is very much the modern day feminist Lord of the Rings that everyone needs in their life. So yeah, it was an absolute mountain to read. Yeah, it was a lot. I felt like crying sometimes just because of the heft of it. Like, my arms started to hurt after holding this book. I was very much tempted to like spend money on the Kindle version or like the audiobook just to like not have to hold it, because it's an arm exercise. My arm's hurting just from holding it like this. But it was so worth the effort. I loved this. I thought it was great. So I better not delay, because we are literally 11 days into February and I've only read one book. It's going to be a bit of a sad and short video if if we're going to be keep going at this pace. It will literally, like, I will have read like maybe 2 books more. So yeah, hopefully I will speed up maybe a little bit. Um, this was by far the longest book that I had to read in this video. So hopefully things will get a little bit faster. I'm not sure though, because the next book is also kind of hefty as well. I figured, just having read a long and depressing epic fantasy, why not follow it up with another long and depressing epic fantasy? So we're going to read The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. This is the last book in the Poppy War trilogy. I am terrified because after what happened in the Dragon Republic, which I read this time last year, I'm so scared. I love this world. I love these characters. I'm looking forward to kind of returning to them. I am terrified to see what happens. So yeah, wish me luck, and I will see you hopefully soon for a little update.
Hello, it's been like a week, I think. I have a stinking cold, which is really fun, and also I need to leave the house in like an hour. So I'm going to keep this relatively brief. I have literally just, just in the last like 2 minutes finished this book. Um, and I feel like this is the kind of book that I should probably like take some time processing to give you like coherent thoughts, but we don't have time for that. So I'm just going to give it to you raw. This is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. It is the third and final book in the Poppy War trilogy. In this book, we are following our main girl, Rin, who is determined to finish this war once and for all. Firstly, character wise, I think Rin is a fantastic protagonist. Um, there's something very kind of anti hero esque about her. Um, she's very morally grey, like very, very, very morally grey. She's so fueled by anger and a desire for revenge that it can blind her at points, especially towards the end. You very much get the feeling that she is losing her grip on like rational thought. But it's done very well because like the book is from her point of view. Like, it's in third person, but it's close third person. So you are getting her POV, and she doesn't really recognize that she's losing it, but like it is pretty clear to like everyone else that she very much is losing it. And then you have several other major characters who have been there since book one, and they all have pretty decent character arcs throughout the 3 books. And I'm not going to sit here and say that like these character arcs were satisfying, because this isn't that kind of book, there is nothing satisfying about the way this book goes, which makes sense because it's a book about war, and very little is satisfying about war. There is no closure, but it is very interesting to see how these characters have kind of grown and grown up, really, because they were like 16 when we first met them in book one, and they've had to grow up very, very quickly. Um, how, they have developed as people, and their kind of relationships with each other as well. Like it's incredibly complex because they have faced so much together, and like sometimes they have been very much against each other, sometimes they have had to work together against a common enemy. um yeah, it is just so complex. Like when you are dealing with such kind of morally grey characters, there is a lot of depth that you can explore in the interactions between them, like how they sometimes agree with each other on certain things, how they go against each other on certain things, um, how they can work together, how they can betray each other, what they love about each other, what they hate about each other. Like there is so much to explore, and I feel like those dynamics are very much explored, especially in this book. I feel, in particular, I just throughout the trilogy, but especially in this book, I really loved the relationship between Rin and Kitai, who like is her best friend, and literally like he is the one who keeps her grounded. Like he is the one who tethers her to this mortal plane, very much. I mean it completely literally when I say that. Like he himself is a fantastic character. Um Arafquag has mentioned that like he is her favorite character in the series, and it's no coincidence that he is very reminiscent of Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon, which is kind of a running theme with her other favorite characters from her other books, um, which I think is really funny, but also incredibly valid. We love Hiccup, but I just really enjoy reading about the love and the dedication and the loyalty that they have to each other. Um, Even when like their views clash, like Rin is incredibly quick to anger and revenge, whereas Kitai is naturally a lot more rational in his thought processes. Like they fight and they argue, but even despite that, like there is so much dedication to each other. And you especially see that in the final chapter. I'm still like emotionally reeling from the ending of this book. In terms of like Rin's character arc specifically, I kind of feel like her arc in this book was almost identical to her arc in the Dragon Republic. Like it was almost a kind of copy and paste. Like she is incredibly powerful. She relies on her power too much. There is a point where she gets humbled and she loses access to that power, and she has to kind of find a way to um, kind of fight without it and work out how to get it back. And that kind of teaches her a little bit about the fact that she can't always rely on it. Yeah, that kind of arc happens both in the Dragon Republic and at least in the first half of this book. It was kind of giving, I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending. In terms of plot line, like things do get wrapped up in, and I'm not going to say like a satisfying way, because again, nothing about this book is satisfying. But I think it like it all gets wrapped up in the only way that I think possibly could have ended. It was all kind of going towards this inevitable ending that no one really wants to happen, but it kind of has to happen, you know? Yeah. Um, is there anything else I really wanted to say? I don't think so. I can't really get into like details of plots or characters or anything any more than like I already have done, because that would spoil the other two books. So yeah, I don't think I enjoyed this quite as much as the Dragon Republic. I still think that is my favorite book in the trilogy. It's kind of on par with the Poppy War, I feel. Um, yeah, I don't really know whether I enjoyed it more or less than the Poppy War, but overall, in terms of a trilogy, this is incredible. It's so well done, so well written. The fact that it has direct parallels with things that have happened in history in real life, um, like that is done incredibly well. This is a great trilogy. I would recommend it, but with a very strong suggestion, warning of you need to check content warnings beforehand because it is so dark, so graphic. Like this is a book, this is a trilogy that deals a lot with war and the horrors of war. Um, so yeah, pretty much anything that could be a content warning, it will probably turn up somewhere in the trilogy. So yeah, be warned before you dive into this trilogy. But if you are okay with graphic and dark content, then yeah, I would definitely give it a go. So yeah, that is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. Yeah, I'm gonna need like 2 to 5 business days to properly process what I read. I genuinely didn't think I was gonna finish it today because like I need to like leave the house um this evening. So I wasn't sure how much reading time I was gonna like get done, but I genuinely could not put this down. I whizzed through it very quickly. So yeah, it's great. Now, my original plan was going to be to prioritize the 3 books that were on my list of 26 books to read in um 2026. Yes, that is the year. Um because I put 3 books, 3 fantasy books on that list that I was going to prioritize and try and read those first. So I've done 2 of them. They're both pretty long, pretty dark. And the third one was The Will of the Many by James Islington, which is also incredibly long. I mean, can I just show you the size of the font? What is going on there? Like, I'm gonna need a magnifying glass. So yeah, my original plan was to move straight onto this, but genuinely, I don't think I can handle it. I yeah, I need a break. I need a palate cleanser. I need to like cleanse myself after the depression of reading both um The Burning God and A Day of Fallen Night. So um yeah, I'm looking at 2 books right now that I had on my TBR that I was originally gonna like use as like a little treat after finishing the 3 long books, but I think I can treat myself a little bit early. And also we are over halfway through the month. Um so like the likelihood of me reading and finishing another massive book is um yeah, it's looking kind of unlikely. So I might potentially need to postpone The Will of the Many. We'll see. We'll see what happens, how I feel after reading another shorter, more light-hearted book. So I have here um I've got Pal- can't hold things apparently. Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher, which is apparently like cozy fantasy, um, which sounds fun. And then also Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall, which is a fantasy rom com, Regency, I think, era rom com. And like I love Alexis Hall. I'm very much like if I need a pick me up, if I need to get out of a reading slump, I'm very much like save me, Alexis Hall, save me. So yeah, I don't know which one I'm gonna choose to read now. That will be a job for me tomorrow. So yeah, it will be one of those 2, and I will read that and let you know my thoughts, and then we'll see what happens from there. I guess. Yeah, this was like a lot longer than I thought it was gonna be. I have been yapping for far too long, and my voice is dying. So I'm gonna go, and I will see you at some point with some kind of update. Hello, another day, another book completed. I last night finished Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall. This is a um, historical rom-com romantasy set in the Regency era, Regency or like Edwardian. I don't know. It's set in 1814, so whatever historical period is, that is when it's set. In this book, we are following a debutante who has been cursed by a goddess, um, and in her efforts to try and break this curse, she falls in with a mysterious young woman who may be a witch, possibly. Look, I picked this book up for two reasons. Firstly, because it's by Alexis Hall, and I've really enjoyed everything I've read by Alexis Hall so far. But secondly, I love the cover. It's so pretty. Like, look at it. My nails match the cover at the moment. That wasn't intentional. I wanted to paint my nails pink and sparkly. But yeah, I love the cover. Um, I ended up getting both this and its sequel, Confounding Oaths, at the same time because they were on offer when I got them. And that cover is just as pretty as this one. So that's nice. I definitely judged the book by its cover. Um, Unfortunately, I didn't love this. I found it quite fun at times, light-hearted. It was entertaining at times. Um, I like the concept of the narration style. It's narrated by a kind of all-seeing fairy because the world is kind of it's like a magical realism type book where there is magic and there are witches and there are fae and yeah. So you have this fairy that is like following the characters and narrating the story. Um which is like it's nice. I do like a strong narrative voice, but at the same time it does kind of have its drawbacks as well. Like the fact that this book is, as much as this Fae narrator is like all seeing, it is still told from an outsider's perspective. So you don't get a lot of insight into these characters in terms of like their thoughts and their motivations. And as a result, they seem a little bit shallow. You just don't get a lot of exploration of their characters in a lot of depth, really, which makes it quite difficult to connect to them and like want to root for them. Also, the curse breaking plot that um is kind of it's talked about in the blurb. It's kind of the main thing. That is kind of it's concluded about halfway through the book. Like the curse is broken halfway through the book. And I finished it. I was like, there are still 200 pages left in this book. What is going to happen? And to answer that question, honestly, not that much. Um, so you have this curse breaking plot that finishes, and then what follows for like over 100 pages is this kind of 50 Shades of Grey style situationship between this debutante, who is no longer cursed, and this potential witch. And yeah, that's not really what I was there for. And I mean, you could have potentially used that 100 pages to also explore their characters in more depth. And that does kind of happen a little bit, but it's not done particularly well because again, with the kind of unique style of narration, it doesn't really allow for a lot of in-depth exploration and analysis. So yeah, there's not a lot of introspection going on, and overall, like this potential witch love interest is, yeah, she's just like very cold and standoffish for most of the book. And honestly, I'm not really into that. I'm a bit fed up with with that trope. I'm sorry, I just don't like
emotionally unavailable love interests, no matter what gender they are. And then, like, after a while of that, there is kind of a final confrontation. There's a second curse that is kind of related to the first one, but also not really. Um, so like there is kind of a second round in terms of plot that does happen, but it is a bit rushed compared to the rest of the book, compared to the first act, definitely. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't love this. I was a little bit bored for quite a lot of this book. Um, but like it was a good palate cleanser, I guess. Definitely a lot more lighthearted than the other books I have read in this video, for sure. So yeah, that is Mortal Follies. I'm not going to rush to read the sequel, despite the fact that I do own it. Um, I don't know. Ask me in a year. Ask me this time next year when I'm doing Fantasy February again. I might maybe revisit the world if I want to. I don't know. We do have what, 8 days left of this month? It's Saturday. Yes. We have like 8 days, just over a week left in February. I don't know if that is going to be enough time to read The Will of the Many, but we're going to give it a shot. I think if I really lock in this week and not do as much of the doom scrolling, um, yeah, I might be able to finish it, or I might finish it like 2 or 3 days into March, and I'll still count it as part of Fantasy February. I am interested to see what this book is all about. I've heard good things. I've heard it's like someone described it as romantasy, but like Roman fantasy. Um, and like because the Roman Empire is literally my Roman Empire, um, that feels like something I'd be into. So, um, I'll give it a go. Hopefully, I'll enjoy it. I'm still a little bit intimidated by it, but yeah, I think I just need to lock in and yeah, start reading, I guess. I might see you before the end of the month. I might see you in March. We'll see, I guess. Um, yeah, happy reading to me. Hello, I'm back. I have nearly finished The Will of the Many. I'm about like 100 pages from the end. Um, yeah, I've kind of sped through it really. Took me not as long as I thought it would. I thought it would take me literally to the end of the month or even longer, but we're still a few days out from the end of the month. So, yeah, I will probably finish this, if not tonight, then tomorrow. I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah, it's good. But in the meantime, because I'm conscious that like I haven't actually finished a lot of books this month that I can tell you about in this vlog. Um, I decided to just read a couple of short books, short stories, um, just kind of in the meantime to like give myself a bit more material to work with in this video. So I read two short stories, both of them are by Alex E. Harrow. Um, they were both audiobooks I listened to on Kindle Unlimited. And yeah, the first one was called The Night in the Butcherbird. Came out last year, I believe. Um, Short story, about 40 pages, I think. Um, it takes place in this kind of post apocalyptic um, world. It's kind of a bit speculative, bit dystopian. Um, this kind of this world that has come about as a result of the climate catastrophe, pollution, and um, climate change, and things like that have led to the population essentially being decimated, technology failing, and what is left of humanity are kind of in these quite isolated villages, communities in the wilderness. Um, and because of how polluted the world is, um, they end up getting sick quite young And so that is kind of the normal thing that happens. They will get sick and die. But if they don't, if that doesn't happen to them, then another thing that can happen to them is they end up changing, gradually transforming into these kind of monstrous, violent demons. They call them like kind of giant monsters that can put people in real danger, and they have to be killed by knights. So the story starts with a knight visiting the village and trying to kill this demon that has been kind of terrorizing the village for a long time. However, our narrator in this story um, doesn't really want the knight to kill this particular demon. Um, she has kind of made it her aim to try and kill any knight that comes after this demon because the demon used to be her wife. So eventually, the knight and our narrator come to a little bit of a tentative truce as they try to actually figure out why this thing has been happening to people um, around the country, and how to potentially stop it or how to prevent it if it can be prevented. Yeah, it's such a detailed and original world. Like the whole kind of system of like how the village works, and also how this transformation works, and the kind of the twists in that whole system as well. Like it's so well thought out. And there's a real kind of fairy tale like aspect to it as well. It feels kind of like you're in like a medieval village. That is how it feels, but at the same time it is like it's set in the future. It's set in like a post-apocalyptic world. It's like a modern dark ages essentially. It is just, yeah, really cool, really very original. And just the story itself is so tragic and so tender. Like you really get the dedication that our narrator has for her wife, even though her wife is now unrecognizable and barely recognizes her. There's still so much love in that, and yeah, it's a solid short story. And then the second short story that I listened to was called The Six Deaths of the Saint, and I've heard such good things about this book. I've heard nothing but good things. A lot of people saying just read it, just listen to it um in a single sitting. It is super short. It's 30 pages. It is so short. I listened to it on the bus home from work. And this one again, it has like a kind of fairy tale feel to it. Um I don't really know how to describe the plot of this one without like spoiling things, cuz I did go into this blind, like knowing nothing about it. And I feel like that helped with the experience, not knowing anything about it. But yeah, essentially, it follows um, the life of a girl who is approached in her childhood by a kind of ghostly figure that she calls the Saint of War. Um, and this Saint of War kind of guides her in her life as she becomes this fearsome warrior, um, super famous, getting lots of glory, killing loads of enemies and stuff. But throughout the story, she kind of starts to wonder, is all of the fame and glory really worth it in the end? And is her life really her own? Or does it belong to someone else? Yeah, that's all I'm really gonna say, because I do feel like you should go into it knowing barely anything. It is incredible how short it is, honestly. Like the fact that the author manages to say so much in so few pages, really creating a story of like epic proportions, but it's like something you can read in a single sitting. It's insane. I I thought that people were just kind of overreacting um about this book. with all of their praise. I was like, it can't be that good. But it's such a well crafted short story. Like the hype is so real. I don't think it's gonna like bring you to tears or anything. Like it's so short that you don't have a lot of time to get attached to like any of the characters, and there's not a lot of time to kind of fully grasp kind of the stakes. Like the stakes aren't particularly that high because you don't have a lot of time to really hang out with the characters or kind of get to grips with what is at stake. But it's so well written. Like every word, every sentence is so well thought out. It's so concise and well crafted. But yeah, it's just it's a real art, I guess. So yeah, it's definitely a really, really good short story, for sure. I think probably one of the best I've ever read. So yeah, those are two short stories that I've read this month. Just to give a couple more reviews, just to like fill out this vlog. Otherwise, it would have been quite a short one with like what 4 books. Yeah. So I'm gonna get back to reading The Will of the Many, and yeah, I should be finished fairly soon, so I can give you a review then. Hello, I'm back. It is literally the next day, and last night I did end up finishing The Will of the Many by James Islington. This is the first book in the Hierarchy series. I think there are meant to be like 5 books in this series, maybe. Which I mean, they're so thick. Yeah, it's a big commitment that I have apparently committed to. So this is a kind of epic fantasy with, I guess, dark academia elements, set in kind of a post apocalyptic world. There was some kind of large scale destruction event that happened that is called the Cataclysm that like plunged the world into a new dark age. And that was like 300 years, maybe. It was like ages and ages before this book is set. So they have no idea what happened, but apparently that will become relevant in the next few books. So I don't know. It's set in a world that is kind of it's inspired by the Roman Empire. There are a lot of elements of the world building that are based on elements of ancient Roman culture and history, namely the colonization of the world, the expansion of the empire, kind of like it's a massive world. It's kind of an entire continent that is like thousands of miles across, and kind of forcing the different communities of people that this empire, the hierarchy, um, to kind of forcing them quite violently to submit to their rule and their way of life, their values, um, is very similar to what the Romans did. You have their laws, something called birthright, which is, it seems to be kind of a moral code of law, which seems to be based on the Augustan morality laws, which provided kind of incentives for people to have families, um, and penalize people who didn't, as well as making adultery, sex outside marriage, a crime punishable by exile or death. That's something that is touched upon in this book. I think probably the most kind of significant inspiration is in the magic system. It works on something they call will, which is something that like everyone has. It's kind of their motivation, their kind of strength, I guess, their constitution, I guess their life force, really. And it's based on the Roman system of patronage, which basically was that you'd have like average people, like the masses, the plebs. They would have patrons from kind of the higher classes, um, like the knights and the senators, um, and they would have to like do things for them, run errands, go to their house and like greet them in the mornings, make art for them if they were like artists, poets, and stuff. And in return, their patrons would give them money or provide connections for them, um, kind of give them platforms. You like the kind of best example of this is the poets circle in the golden age. um you'd have like Augustus had a guy who was like in charge of collecting all of the best poets of the time and getting them to make art, make poetry that was like basically Augustan propaganda. And in return, they would get paid, they would get platforms, they would essentially be made famous. But like there is a very obvious power dynamic in that you have someone who is less powerful kind of doing services, doing deeds for someone who is more powerful, and in return they would, get money and connections and stuff. That's kind of what we have in this, but with magic. So there's a hierarchy, hence the name, um, where you'd have like people on the bottom of the hierarchy would be ceding half of their will to the people above them. Like the people on the bottom were known as the Octavii, and then you'd have the Septimii. We'll get into it. Um, the Septimii on like the next rung up on the pyramid, and then the Sextii, and then like it goes up, and then like on top you have like the, what do they call it? I don't think we actually come across like one of the first ones, the princeps. Um, on top, we don't come across the princeps in this book. We do come across a Dimidius, which is like the second rung down. And it kind of, it's like a triangle basically. You have like most of the population being Octavii, and then like it decreases, so you only have like three princeps, Prin- principes, I guess, in like the entire empire. And each person is ceding half of their will to the person above them on the pyramid. Um, so you end up with like really, really powerful people on top because they're getting will from so many people. And what it ends up being is basically a very big magical pyramid scheme, which is, I think, for a magic system, I think that's great. It's super original. And the magic system really does read as more of a science. There are like there's a lot of mechanics in there that don't make a lot of sense to me, but I don't know. It seems very scientific. Um, Part of the story takes place at a school where they like learn how will works, and how it can be used to like power machinery and stuff like that. Like will can be used in so many different ways. Like it can be used for electricity. It can be used to like link things to other things. It can be used to like give yourself the strength of like 10 men when you're fighting against someone. Anyway, that's enough about the world building. The actual plot of the story, we follow a guy called Vis, who, let me just say, Vis is literally Latin for will. Great name. Such a great name. It's honestly J.K. Rowling levels of naming a character. And there is a reason for that that is explained later in the book. But yeah, I just gotta say, I kind of laughed when I when I first heard this guy's name. So you have this guy Vis who is on the run. He's a fugitive. He is hiding his identity, um, for reasons, and for more reasons, he ends up kind of striking a deal with a relatively powerful person in government, that he has to a um, enter this kind of elite school where they learn how to like use will and magic and stuff, um, and kind of blend in with the students there. B, he has to like get to the top of the class by winning a Hunger Games style tournament, um, that like I guess determines class rankings. And C, he also has to investigate like the secrets that are hidden on this island where the school is, because there are like secret things that are going on that may have resulted in deaths of people in the past. So there's a lot of like espionage and keeping secrets and uncovering secrets. Um, it's quite tense because the stakes are pretty high. Like if this guy got found out, if people knew who he really was, he would literally die. So yeah, that's fun. I liked Vis as a protagonist. He's a competent guy. Um, I think part of that is definitely down to plot armor. He does have an insane amount of plot armor. There are definitely things that he would probably like die from if he wasn't the main character. um, but at the same time, he does have limits. He's not completely overpowered. So yeah, it's good. I also like the discussions in the book around kind of colonialism. I did touch upon that, but there's also like there's a scene where like Vis and his new friends travel to like a place that was colonized by the empire, by the hierarchy, and they like his friends who are like citizens of the hierarchy. They like have very kind of not great opinions of the locals there, the people who were colonized. They basically think of them as savages because they weren't brought up on this like civilized way of life that the hierarchy has. Um, and that's something that was like kind of drilled into them from birth. It's it's something that was taught to them. They've kind of been brainwashed. It wasn't challenged as much as I thought it was going to be, like that kind of that viewpoint. Um, so yeah, that might be something that kind of gets built upon in later books. I don't know. We'll see. I also really enjoyed the kind of the discussions about the ethics of contributing to this hierarchy, this system that is very kind of corrupt and exploitative. Even if most people don't get much out of it, like the Octavii are very much exploited. They're treated essentially as slaves, pretty much, and they don't really have a say in the matter either, because if you are seen to kind of resist this system of ceding your will, you're you're kind of seen as a rebel, and there are measures put in place to stop rebellions, things called prescriptions, which again is an ancient Roman thing. You would like get added to a list that means you are a wanted person, and basically anyone could capture you, take you dead or alive for a very large reward. um, there is immediately a price on your head. And that is something that happened in ancient Rome. Like enemies of the state would get prescribed. Um, and yeah, that happened to a lot of very kind of significant political figures. And there are discussions in the book around like what is the best way to kind of resist and rebel against that system, um, especially when rebellion is such a dangerous thing to even be suspected of doing. I've been yapping for a really long time, so I'm gonna like in terms of criticisms, I'm gonna keep it relatively brief. Um, the ending was a bit iffy for me. There were so many curveballs thrown in the very last minute. Um, it just kind of it turned the plot right on its head, and not in a way that I particularly enjoyed. I think there were enough questions left unanswered to like have a decent cliffhanger already, but then there were so many new things being introduced, like literally in the last like 5 pages. I was just like, what? Okay. It like for me, it just felt like it kind of cheapened the ending a little bit, because it's just like, oh, in order to like have all of this explained, you're just gonna have to read the next book, and it's it's just like, what? I don't know what's happening. It just left me confused and kind of unsatisfied, really. But I'm not going to kind of let that spoil the rest of my reading experience, because most of the book I really enjoyed. I whizzed through it. It was great. So yeah, overall, I did enjoy this book. I thought it was a really solid beginning to a series. I thought the world building was great. Yeah, it's cool. It's romantasy, but Roman fantasy rather than romantic fantasy, which is something I never knew I needed. I've been talking for a really long time, and my phone is probably going to run out of storage like imminently. So I'm going to keep this kind of concluding thing relatively brief. Hang on. Here we have all of the books that I read in this video, plus the two ebook short stories that I also read. Um, yeah, like 3 pretty chunky books in there. So even though it looks like I read less than I typically do, in a month. And like in terms of pages, I probably still read less than I typically do in a month, but the books were dense, and I read three pretty hefty ones that I did want to prioritize this month. So I'm I'm still proud of myself for finishing those three books plus more. My favorite book this month was definitely The Burning God. I'm still reeling from from that book. I loved it so much, but I also like got emotional damage from it. So yeah, that was a lot. Least favorite probably Mortal Follies. I thought it was fine, but I did have some issues with it as well. But yeah, overall, relatively successful month. Um, I always enjoy doing these little challenges. So yeah, it's good. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you got to this point in it. Managed to stick with me through all of the yapping. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. You can also find me on TikTok, Instagram, Storygraph, Blue Sky. Is that it? I think. My username on all those platforms is at Whitliff Jones, which is the same as it is on here. I am a couple of days out from the end of February. We have a couple of days left in the month. So theoretically, I could read another book, but I don't think I would be able to read any of the books that I wanted to read in the span of like 2 or 3 days, unless I like really rush through them, which I don't really want to do. So I think I'm gonna leave it on kind of a high note and just be happy with what I managed to achieve in this month, and then I can move on to the long list of books I need to read in March because it is a long list of books. I will be at some point in the next month, I think, posting the first in my series of reading the Women's Prize. All of the winners from the Women's Prize fiction and nonfiction over the years. And I think I will be due to finish my first one next month in March. So that is what I'm going to move straight onto, um, reading through that list. So yeah, thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.